lovelies. This is Paisley Wilde, and thank you for joining me here in the spaces between. I hope you guys are having just a fantastic Thursday. It's time for Theology Thursday, right? It's been a while. And it is time. It is a Thursday, yes. Kind of I don't know, it's been kind of a week. So I hope you guys are just having a good day. I'm not going to talk about the news because, well, it's the news. And yeah, we'll just leave it there. There's so much going on out there in the world. Can't hardly turn around without going bump right smack dab into it. Because yes, it is everywhere. So yes, thank you for joining me here. And today we're going to talk about Hekate. Some people say it Hekate, which I just don't. But Hekate, Hekate. Some spell it Hecate. Either way works. So yes. So hello, my lovelies. And for those of you who have joined me brand new, which I know everybody does sometimes, kind of a brand new thing, you can always reach me at wildpaisley@gmail.com. That's WILDEPAISLEY at wildpaisley@gmail.com. Just a real quick shout out to Rumble, if you haven't already, because that's where I'm at. I'm on rumble.com. Just download the Rumble app. It is a free, simple, easy-to-use application and the best way to stay connected to content that you want. Once you've got it, search for my channel here. It's at Wild Paisley or the spaces between, either one. And hit follow. That way you can get a notification every time I go live. No missed shows, no extra steps, and you can grab it right now using the link in the description or the pinned live in chat. Yes, I'll put it in chat. And just download it to your phone. You're ready to go. Anywhere, anyplace, anytime. There's actually a lot of information on Rumble. It's not as restricted as you might find some other places. Not to name any names, but you'll find that I am in other places, which is cool. But I like it here. Tools are easy. Really easy. So easy that a Gen Xer can use them. Sorry, gotta poke fun at me. Anyways, and if you do prefer to watch it on the big screen, Rumble does have an app that you can download for Fire TV or Hulu or some of the other applications, and which is pretty cool. So it is available on all major streaming devices and smart TVs. Just search for Rumble. That's RUMBLE. And then follow the channel and be part of the action. So yes, it is pretty darn cool. And I like it. I have it on my TV so that I can follow other people like Lucky One. I watch Lucky too because she's awesome. And you can always check us out at truthrefugee.com. You can find us there too. And because you know what? I don't know if you've noticed, but in our society today, it doesn't really matter where you are. It seems like truth is a refugee in our society. There's a lot of lies and misdirects and OMG-ness. And if you need a life raft, come join us. There's a lot of really great information. Brooks Agnew, you can find him there too. Talk about a rock star. Back when ivermectin was not allowed, he was the only person you could probably find it from. Check it out. A lot of great information and some other show hosts that you might remember from other places that you might have found myself or Brooks Agnew or Lucky One. You might find over there at truthrefugee.com. So yes, check us out. Just telling you. Yes. So, where's the moon this week or this month? I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's a lot of things in retrograde. I'm feeling it. Other people are feeling it. Not saying retrograde is a reason for the feeling, but but sometimes there's a reason. So, that being said, moon phases right now, because there is a reason sometimes. With it being the 20th of November today, absolutely today, it is 100% the new moon. So often, a lot of folks talk about the strength and the power and the energy of the full moon, right? Well, there is an equal but opposite power in the strength of the new moon. Really, truly, is the dark moon. And just like you have two blue moons, that's where two full moons happen in the same month. You can have two dark moons in the same month. It's an entirely different set of energies. And it is an extraordinarily powerful thing. And I'm talking about the new moon for a reason, especially in reference to Hekate, because she's considered one of the dark goddesses, if you will. I don't feel that way, but she is in that realm or that spectrum of deities or divine, which is unfortunate because she's not. So, with many of the gods and goddesses out there in the pantheons in general, they are like a coin, and the energy itself is the coin, right? And I've mentioned this before. Energy is energy, magic is magic, right? There's good, there's bad. It's not so much that there's good and bad energy, it's just energy is energy. It can be used for good or for ill. And so it's up to the user and how they manipulate the energy, just like a hammer is a hammer. It can be used to build things and create things, or it can be used to destroy things. I mean, you can bash a rock to smithereens, or you can use it to, build a house. Either way. If you've ever been to a demo derby, you know how badly a car can get beat up by running into another car. Or you can safely drive from one place to another. It all depends on how you use the piece of equipment that you have. And sadly, breaking magic down into its base component parts, it's very much similar. It's just a tool, which kind of takes some of the magic out of the magic, but that's what it is. And in doing so, though, it takes some of the mystery out of it, and I'm sorry to do that. However, sometimes we have to do that to take away some of the fear out of magic. And we need to do that because there's a whole section of the world out there that is absolutely deathly afraid of magic. And it's unfortunate because those people are the ones that want to stab us with the pitchforks and set us on fire and hang us from a cross, which not because, but because that was a very, very approved way of killing witches once upon a time. That's why. Okay. So when we get to talking about magic, the reason why I'm going there right now is because Hekate is really, really, truly considered the goddess of magic. And when I say the goddess, it's because she's been around for a while, like a long while. A lot of mythology, and I call it mythology because history, spoken word history, thought processes, etc., really consider her to be like one of the elder gods. I consider her to be an elder god. Greek mythology puts her out there with the Titans, possibly birthed by the Titans, although some of that is pretty gray and fuzzy. Possibly she could have been Isis, Maybe, they're not sure. She may have been part of the Tuatha De Danann, which is, from the Celtic and Gaelic traditions, which, if you've done any of the research into the Celtic traditions, well, that's an interesting lore there and where their footprints come from. Yeah, the Celts were not afraid to travel at all. And boy, howdy, did they not like the Romans. But anyways, that's a history lesson for another day. So when we talk about Hekate, ultimately, today in our society, she is considered the goddess of the crossroads. And she is considered the goddess of witchcraft and magic. And ghosts, oddly. But okay. And those things were incorporated into Roman mythology. And now she is often depicted as having three faces: the mother, the maiden, and the crone. So she's part of that triune in that mythology. And, excuse me, and she's also associated with the moon, with hell, like the underworld, not like hell, the Christian hell, but the underworld. That's the ghosts, if you will, and the afterlife, the spirit world. And because of being part of the crossroads and entryways, the liminal entryways and such, so she's the keeper of the keys and doorways. And because she's going through hell and the darkness and the crossroads and the passages, torches are one of her symbols. So she has keys with her. She's got torches. She has guardians with her, are often like these big, like dire wolves, or like the big wolves and dogs and such. And so she's like this big, magic, powerful individual. Big magic. Like, she's a big deal. And oftentimes in our society, she is kind of shuffled off to one side and considered just to be, oh, she's just one of the triple goddesses. Well, no, she is like the goddess in her own right. And it's interesting to me that she is shuffled off and minimalized. And I think it's partly because of the whole Christian movement that happened in the Middle Ages and the way that Christianity was being pushed forward, and because they were bringing the whole the brotherhood to the front and minimalizing the sisterhood, because there was a lot of strength and power with feminism at the time. And everybody hears feminism, and today's feminism comes to mind. That's not what I mean. Like, there's a lot of feminine power. And it's frustrating because the power that women had pre-medieval times was equal to, if not greater than, what men have even today. Because there was a lot of a matriarchy, not just the patriarchy, but there's this powerful strength. Because men assumed, or mankind, I should say just mankind, assumed that life began with women. And it was a real switch in theology to have life beginning with man. And it was a really big deal. A really big change. Really big change. So to have this change was, they had to minimalize Hekate and make her less. And she could no longer be as big or bigger than the Titans. They had to reduce her in size. And so she became just this guardian of the liminal ways, just a guardian of the gate of the crossroads, just a keeper of the keys, just this smaller being. And in reality, that's a pretty big deal if you stop and think of it. How many crossroads do you guys cross or go through? Just and go into the grocery store from your home. If you stop and think, what is a crossroad? Where one path crosses another. That could be your sidewalks, it could be your streets, it could be bike paths, it could technically be, I guess, your hallways if you wanted to get like really at it. Your liminal crossroads. What does Dr. Google say a liminal crossroad is? Liminal cross. Let's spell crossroad. Got the new glasses. They're supposed to be better for computers. We'll see. Liminal crossroad. The definition is. Survey says. Definition. Definition is a figurative and symbolic location representing a transitional in-between state where a person or entity is betwixt and between two distinct places, times, or states of being. Interesting. This is derived from the Latin word limen for threshold, and it embodies the uncertainty and disorientation of a rite of passage or major life change, such as a career shift, the transition from childhood to adulthood, or a moment of significant choice. Oh. Like how it sounds like middle school. Mm-hmm. Like a lot. I don't know. Junior high, middle school, high school, all those things. Grade school. I don't miss any of those times. Granted, it's been a few decades, but still. Icky. I don't miss any of those at all. Baptismal fonts. Stop and think about it. That's pretty darn liminal. I mean, seriously, what's more liminal than a baptismal font or a communal bench where you're getting your communion? I mean, that's pretty liminal, right? Or where you're confessing your sins to your priest if you're Catholic, right? That's pretty darn liminal. What about that prayer wall in Jerusalem? Is that liminal? Is that a liminal space? I think so. I'd consider that pretty liminal. That's a very in-between spot. Jerusalem itself is kind of in between a lot of things. So there's a fix for today's world order. Jerusalem is now the town of Hekate. Everybody else needs to leave. Oh my. Everybody's heads would just kind of go pop. Sorry, I'm getting giggle over that one for a while. Yeah. Yeah, I like that one. Any gate, any doorway, that's liminal space. Where water meets the ground, that's liminal. Where air meets the sky, or sky meets the earth, excuse me, that's liminal. Yeah. So when you stop and say, oh, I'm just trying to limit Hekate to those liminal spaces, yeah, basically, you just gave her the broad brush to be everywhere. So yeah, I like it. Let's go with it. So, early Greek religion, yeah, they accepted her as just one of the titans, or at that time. According to the Hesiod, she's the daughter of the titan Perseus and the nymph Asteria, and has the power over the earth, the heaven, and the sea. So she bestows the blessings of all daily life. I mean, like I said, big deal. And she is the chief goddess presiding over all magic and spells. She witnessed the abduction of Demeter's daughter Persephone to the underworld. And as a result, in torch in hand, she went to the underworld to search for her. And so the pillars called Hekate stood at the crossroads and doorways to keep away evil spirits. So a lot of your doorways have pillars to symbolize that. And so she's often represented as a single formed figure clad in a robe, holding those torches or burning torches um, to ward away those evil spirits. Now, in some thought processes, if you will, that she was changed or upgraded, if you will, to be three-faced or have the triplicate look to her, so that she could look in all directions at the crossroads. So she could be in all four corners, and she could look all ways. So her back was always protected, if you will. And then she was accompanied by a pack of dogs for also protection. And then when it comes to witchcraft, nowadays, often societies think that, oh, we're going to harm you. But no, back then, in ancient times, witchcraft was just magic. And it wasn't that. It was just the use of supernatural or occult powers. And so, which is frustrating. I mean, it was normal back then, as normal as breathing is for us, And so for that to have changed so much, that had to have been just a huge cultural shift. And it was. Because as Christendom became a more prevalent thing and Christianity became more and more pronounced, and their marketing campaign became more and more, I mean, they got to give it to the Christians. They had a fantastic marketing campaign. They started off, if you practiced white magic, they separated out white magic and black magic. And this is where it came from, guys. Excuse me. White magic is where you practice the healing arts. If you healed people, if you helped people, that was white magic, right? But if you hurt people, that was black magic. And so if you were hurting people, that was bad. You're a bad witch. And you could be killed for that. But if you were a white witch, you were okay. And so those labels were originally created by Christendom, Catholics, honestly. And over time, even that was too much. And they didn't want that because that was still giving witches too much power. And so it became anybody who did the healing, the white magic, if you will. Those became too much, and that was just bad magic too. And then it became hedge witches, basically anybody who practiced herbal lore and created medicines that weren't masculine. Those became the ones that were bad. And so it's this whole process which created witchcraft to be a bad thing. And it's frustrating because it really is not. So yes, so magic and Hekate, not bad. Hekate to me has always been this huge mothering figure. So when folks say, oh, she's was the goddess over the sun and the sky and or earth and sea and heaven and all the things, the blessings of daily life, that is the Hekate that I've always known. But just like any mother, sometimes you got to get the spankings or the discipline. And that to me is also familiar with Hekate. So, but yeah, Hesiod really did kind of try to define her parentage. And let's see, it was in the Theogony in the 7th century BCE. So he says let me try to say this. I didn't practice it. I didn't sound it out, and I should have. Gigantomachy as the slayer of Clytius. I bet said it differently. Clytius. He said that Zeus honored Hekate above all. He is said to have given her a share of the earth and the sea, a portion of the starry heaven. As a result, Hesiod said that men often sacrifice to her because she bestows wealth and good fortune. It's passages 411 to 425. So that passage reflects the belief that Hekate had power in all domains, even though other deities ruled over those domains. Interesting. And then some myths suggest that the Hekate is the mother of various characters from Greek mythology, including witches like Kirka or Circe, depending on how you pronounce it, but Kirka and Medea, and then Aegileus, and then the shape shifting Empusa, and then Scylla or Scylla, the man eating Scylla. So yeah, there, and then she was mentioned with saving Demeter, and then Hecate is the one who gave Persephone the way to get out. She saved her. Um, so even though she had eaten of the pomegranate already, so it's interesting that she has such a huge influence right there in Greek life, Roman life. Um, but from there, she she moved from there, or she also became part of the Gaelic structure as well, and she's often considered part of the triple goddesses with oh, I say that and then my brain shuts down because I knew this one. I didn't have it looked up. With the Morrigan and sometimes with Bab or Maca, although sometimes with the man. So and Bridget. So sometimes she's mixed in with those ladies as well, even though they're considered a triple goddess. They're all multiple faces, and it's interesting because the Morrigan is a figure that's associated with war and fate and death, and is generally the one who is dominant as a single figure or shows up as a trio, right? But often folks will confuse the Morrigan with Hekate, which doesn't make sense because they're two very different strong ladies, right? But at the same time, they have some similarities, just like there's some thought that Isis was a Hekate or a incarnation of Hekate as well. So that those parallels are called, it's like another big word, syncretism, 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 and it's a process where similar deities from different cultures emerge. It's because no matter who you are in the world within culture, there's going to be some similarities because we're all going to kind of develop some similar beliefs and structures and mores, or like societal structures and beliefs, right? And Isis is also the goddess of magic, so there's similarities. Do I think they're the same person? No, I think they're just cousins, maybe. Cousins. I'd go with cousins because they have some similarities. Um, Anyways, getting back to Hecate, even though there are some similarities, could you say they would be on the same altar? I'm just going to stop and ask that question. You could, if you're like really going for the, hey, goddesses of magic and might, I really want to do this thing and I really want all the power behind me. Yeah, you could say Morrigan and Hecate and Isis, and I really want all the magic behind me. But be careful what you wish for, because if you're asking for, a wrecking ball, and you really, really only needed a thumbtack, you might actually get the wrecking ball. And it's like wearing cement shoes when you go swimming. Sometimes that's not really what you need. So be careful what you ask for. Yeah, just cautionary, guys. So, full moon, or new moons. Why is that important? Well, right now, we're at this week was the November 16th, which is considered one of Hekate's nights, or one of the days that are dedicated to Hekate in contemporary times. So is October 31st, or Samhain. And it's because the thin veil, it's kind of a big deal. In the southern hemisphere, Samhain is, of course, on April 31st. So for me, both nights, thin veils is kind of a big, regardless of where you are, the veil is thin on both nights. Now, the wild hunt is happening generally in mythology, like right about now, and Hekate being part of, hey Gemini, with the wild hunt happening right now, and Hekate being part of the underworld and being part of the magic world, she would be very involved in the wild hunt, especially with her pack of dogs, right? And the Green Man or the Oak King, or the Holly King. Yep, they're all really involved in the wild hunt. Yeah. So with her pack of dogs, yeah, she'd be very involved. So another night that Hekate got dedicated to her is actually August 13th, and it's so there's a place that was set aside in Europe, where generally it's a feast in Rome to honor Diana, but they did offerings to Hekate to prevent storms. So, but anyways, that's in August. But right now, during November, Hekate's night, yes. And then coming up is November 30th, another modern festival. It's to honor Hekate of the crossroads, and it's where you go to the crossroads to make offerings and such. And it's a time to evoke the idea of the crossroads, and Hekate is the goddess of the crossroads, and it's a place of change. It's often, if you find yourself standing at a crossroads, it's because you're trying to make a choice. It's like, do I make a left-hand choice? Do I make a right-hand choice? Or do I go straight? Or do I stay here? Because regardless of which choice you're making, you're still making a choice. And even to not make a choice is still making a choice. And that whole transitional thing is a choice. And Hekate is the goddess of transition, right? So all of them are right there. And a lot of today's ceremonies or rituals are interpretations of ancestral rituals that were written down by Christian monks who wrote things down because they thought it was mythos and heathenistic, and so they wrote them down in a scary way because, oh, don't do this, it's scary, it's bad. And so a lot of what we see as historical fact is written down by people who wrote it as a work of fiction, scary fiction. And it's a lot of what we do today for ritual is just an interpretation of an interpretation of a word of mouth historical history. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that just wasn't kept. And it's frustrating because a lot of us are making it up as we go along. So when we go to do rituals to honor the divine or honor the deities, a lot of it is an attempt to connect, and we have to do what feels right for us, right? So when it comes to honoring the divine, what feels correct? So for me, I've always connected with Hekate during the new moon. the dark of the moon and at night, because that just feels appropriate. So just with the full moon, I see 3 days with the full moon. I see 3 days with the new moon. So that's the last little bit, the full of the moon, and then the first little bit, same with the new moon. And then at dusk and dawn, just as the sun sets or just as the sun rises, same with the just as the moon sets or just as the moon rises. Those are the strongest periods of energy that I feel or connect with, if you will. And yeah, I think that's just those are my times. That's when I feel the most energized with Hekate's energy. Now, when it comes to the correspondences, yeah, I think dogs are a real big element. Wild dogs, big dogs, if you will. Think Cerberus, Tibetan dogs, the big dogs, the big fluffy, drooly dogs. Now, some say that she also had snakes or frogs. I don't know. Maybe frogs I could maybe see just because they talk so much at night or right there at dusk. So here in North Idaho, we still haven't had a hard freeze. Knock on hard wood product. Yeah. So we still have a frog that's chirping outside the back door. It's kind of funny. I don't know. Horses. I can see horses just because she has to travel from one place to another to get where she's going. Sometimes it's easier to travel by horse than it is by your own 2 feet. Although goddess of the liminal spaces, she could probably travel from one point to another relatively easily. I don't know. Black, red, and white for her colors. Yeah, I could see that too. Divination, yes. Scrying, tarot, any of the divination tools. Elements, earth, fire. Actually, I can see her connecting with any of the elements. Some of this is just, you're going to have to stop and meditate in what connects with you. Offerings, I would go with some of the traditionals, the grains, honey, wine. But of course, be careful what you're offering. Know what you're offering. Know what you're seeking. What are you asking for before you put out your offering? For herbs and spices, bay, garlic, jasmine, lavender, myrrh. Those warm, earthy evening scents that just swell in the evening, if you will. Plants. Some of those I think would be, again, some of like nightshade, that kind of thing. Belladonna, monkshood, lavender, yeah. Datura, azalea. Just be careful with some of those poisons. They are toxic. Just remember that some toxins handled in small, minute doses, like un poquito, very, very small doses, are medicinal. And yeah, very much associated with the moon for planets. Hematite, jasper, moonstone, obsidian. Metals, silver. Yeah, I could see that. Symbols, crossroads, keys, torches. Oh yes. Cypress and yew for her woods. Very much again. Also, I would say elder, without a doubt. And then, so what kind of aspect would she have? I think she would have pretty much any aspect. So most people assume that the gods have like a specific aspect, if you will. And I don't think so. So a lot of the gods pick an aspect, and that's who they are. That's who they personify. That's who I'm going to be. For instance, a lot of people imagine Odin as like some older grandpa-like figure with his beard and his white hair and everything, but probably not. Maybe sometimes depending on what he wanted to accomplish, but he could transform himself into many other things. Loki was not the only trickster. So um, Hekate could do the same thing. She could do and present herself as pretty much whomever she wanted to be, and still does. Could she be a crone? Sure, if she wants. Could she be a young woman? Yep, you betcha. Could she be a black cat crossing your path? Yep, that too. It really all depends on what it is she's trying to accomplish or what she's trying to do at that particular time. So it really depends upon her wants and needs rather than what we might want or need. So yeah. Um, so um, she's a protector. To me, again, that very motherly, matronly, not matronly like Gaia, but matronly like protector. Like someone who's going to stand up and fight for you, like a mom would, you know, a protector of homes, graveyards, because where do ghosts live? Well, they live in graveyards, right, or homes, or in other places. Um, but she also, I don't think, would really want the ghouls and the goblins and all the things to invade your spaces. So if I'm doing a cleansing, for instance, if there's a ghost or an inhabitant that needs to be going away, I will appeal to Hekate. Say, you know what, this is someone that needs to go elsewhere because this is not a safe place for this person or this entity. Where's the best place for them? How can we get this person to go to that place? So, yeah. And then, let's see. Anything else? Let's see. There's a Hekate supper that you could do. Eggs, garlic, leeks, fish, bread, cakes, wine. Yep, any of that stuff. And then you can always invoke her. You can always honor her. Indoors, outdoors. If you're going to do something outdoors, yes, a crossroads is best. Absolutely. And then with the moon water, you know, I would do like the new moon water rather than the full moon water. And yeah, I absolutely would. I've got some links that I have in the show notes so you guys can look them over and check out the information. If anything, I do recommend a book, and those are in the notes as well. It's by Courtney Weber, and it's Hekate, Goddess of Witches. You can find it on Amazon or your local library. It's on Audible as well, and it's a pretty fantastic book. Courtney did a gloriously awesome job on her research there, and she had a fantastic experience while she was doing the research also. So I would do that. I would read the book if you could. I have it on my shelf because it's great, and I have it on Audible so I can listen to it even when I'm doing other things, because sometimes my hands are busy and I don't want to turn a page. so yes, all the things. Anyways, but on that note, yeah, check out the stuff. You know, whether you feel that Hekate is Greek or Roman or a derivative of Isis or some other deity, you know, that is, you know, up to your interpretation, of course. I have my own. As an omnitheist, I kind of embrace everything, right? Remember that? Sort of. It's complicated. We'll just leave it at that. But I really, truly feel that Hekate is the balance. As a follower of Hekate, I carry a key with me at all times, without a doubt. And I have a raven that I wear. It's one of my touchstones. It keeps me grounded. So, whatever it is that you need to do to help keep you grounded in the times that we are in, please do so. Don't forget to ground yourself out, like we talked about last time. Or, rinse the stuff off, go wash your hands, let go. It's not your baggage to carry. You don't have to carry other people's baggage. Something that we all need to remember every doggone day. So, with that, though, I'm going to take off. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Here in the U.S., we have Thanksgiving next week. It's a celebration of family, and we're just going to leave it at that. And because Mini-Me is going to be home all week because they have a week off to celebrate family. And we have some paint to apply. So anyway, so merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, like I said, and I will talk to you next time. Yes.